Let's get started with our first story, and it's a massive shakeup in the world of combat sports. UFC is leaving ESPN. Dana White has just announced a historic game-changing deal with Paramount. The UFC has now officially confirmed a brand new broadcast agreement that will make Paramount the exclusive home for all UFC events in the United States starting in 2026. This is not just a minor move, this is a monster deal. We're talking about a 7-year agreement worth over $1.1 billion annually, with a total value of $7.7 billion over that period. That number is staggering, and it completely replaces the promotion's current partnership with ESPN. That ESPN deal, which began back in 2019, was already considered huge at the time, reportedly paying the UFC around $500 million per year. But now, with Paramount stepping in, the numbers have more than doubled, and the structure of how fans will watch fights is going to change in a big way. Under this new agreement, the UFC will deliver 43 events each year, 13 numbered events and 30 fight nights. But here's the part that's going to blow a lot of people's minds. Fans will no longer need to pay $79.99 for a pay-per-view, because all events will be included with a Paramount Plus subscription. That means the days of dropping big money every few weeks on pay-per-views are done in the US. And it doesn't stop there. Select numbered UFC events will also air live on CBS, Paramount's flagship network, which is massive exposure. Paramount Plus currently costs between $7.99 and $12.99 a month depending on your plan. But there's no official word yet on whether that pricing will change when the UFC coverage begins. Dana White took to his socials and posted a message to fans. He said this historic deal with Paramount and CBS is incredible for UFC fans and our athletes. For the first time ever, fans in the US will have access to all UFC content without the pay-per-view model, making it more affordable and accessible to view the greatest fights on a massive platform. This deal puts the UFC amongst the biggest sports in the world. The exposure provided by Paramount and CBS networks under this new structure is a huge win for our athletes and anyone who watches and loves this sport. And then TKO COO Mark Shapiro added his own sharp take. He said, "The pay-per-view model is a thing of the past. What's on pay-per-view anymore? Boxing? Movies on DirecTV? It's an outdated, antiquated model." So it was Paramount for us, forgive the pun, where it's one-stop shopping, especially for our younger fans in the flyover states. When they find out, wait, if I just sign up for Paramount Plus for $12.99 a month, I'm going to automatically get UFC's numbered fights and the rest of the portfolio? That's the message we want to send. This is huge for fans, huge for fighters, and a total shift in how UFC will be consumed moving forward. Before moving to the next news, we have one quick request for you. We're constantly working on improving our content to earn your love and support. That's why we'd truly appreciate it if you could take just a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let's move over to Jon Jones, who has just responded to some recent comments from Khamzat Chimaev, and these weren't your typical fight callouts or attempts to stir drama. Instead, they were words of pure respect. Heading into UFC 319, fight fans noticed something interesting. During his training sessions, Khamzat was spotted wearing a Jon Jones shirt, a subtle but powerful nod to the reigning heavyweight champion. As expected, the MMA community immediately took notice, with speculation buzzing about whether this was simply admiration or perhaps a hint at something more. Of course, this isn't the first time Chimaev has spoken highly of Jones. Back in 2022, he openly called Jon the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. And now, in a recent interview with the Schmo, he doubled down on that statement without hesitation. Khamzat said, "Jon Jones, of course, nobody is like him. He beats the monsters. I did all my training with Alexander Gustafsson. I know how good he is, and if Jon Jones could stop that guy, it's scary. Daniel Cormier, he has pressure, good wrestling and boxing. He has the mentality of just pressuring the fighters, and Jones stopped that guy as well. If he stays in the game, he has to be pound for pound #1. What's fascinating here is the level of insight behind Chimaev's words. He's not just praising Jones because of his record, he's referencing first-hand experience. Having trained with Alexander Gustafsson, Khamzat knows exactly how dangerous and skilled Gustafsson is inside the octagon. The fact that Jones not only faced him but managed to finish him left a strong impression. And when he brings up Daniel Cormier, he's talking about another legendary name, a two-division champion known for his relentless pressure, elite wrestling and boxing skills. Jones beating both of these fighters is exactly why Khamzat holds him in such high regard. Jon Jones has now responded to these compliments in an interview with Red Corner MMA, and it's clear that he truly appreciates the words. He said, "I don't think he has any reason to toot my horn or even be humble. He doesn't have to be. I mean, heavyweights fear him, and the fact that he has so much respect for me really means a lot. It says a lot about his character, his humility, to compliment someone in such a huge way, so I'm very grateful and honored." It's refreshing to see this kind of mutual respect in the fight game, especially in today's era, where headlines are often dominated by trash talk, callouts, and personal insults. This moment between Jon and Khamzat shows a different side of MMA, a side where elite athletes can recognize greatness in each other without it being about rivalry. That said, make no mistake, if these two ever ended up in the same weight division, the tone of this conversation would almost certainly change very quickly. Respect is one thing, but in the fight business, competition always comes first. Now let's head over to Brazil, where Charles Oliveira has delivered some sharp words for the rest of the lightweight division, and for one fighter in particular, Dan Hooker. The former lightweight champion has never been one to shy away from calling things as he sees them, and this time he's pointing fingers at several top contenders who, according to him, didn't have the courage to face him in his home country. Recently, it was officially confirmed that Oliveira will headline UFC Rio against Rafael Fiziev. This is a fight that promises fireworks, but according to Oliveira, Fiziev was not the UFC's first choice for his opponent. In an interview with AG Fight, Oliveira revealed that the promotion had reached out to other fighters first, and claims that none of them were willing to make the trip to Brazil to face him. He explained his frustration bluntly, saying, "Which of the top guys would come fight me in Brazil? None of them would come here to fight in Brazil. You know what's going to happen today? Tomorrow, when you release this clip, a bunch of them will say, I would. But in reality, I'm not a guy who goes around playing games. I was offered names and they didn't even want it. So today when you release this, these guys will tweet, 'Coward. I wanted it. He didn't want it.' But it's a lie. My whole life it's been like this. They poke around and talk from the other side. When I say, 'Come on, I'm here,' they take it and run the other way." This isn't the first time Oliveira has accused other fighters of avoiding him, but this time he even named names to make his point clear. He broke down the situation further, saying, "Taporia just beat me. He's number 1 in the rankings. Arman is waiting for a title fight. Justin Gaethje said he'll only fight for the belt. Max Holloway broke his hand. Dustin Poirier is retired. Which of the others would come? Dan Hooker. This guy is also just talking for a long time, the soap opera. You already know it's been going on for years. He talked and talked and talked and it never happened. So really, it's all talk. He talked a lot of nonsense, but when he's called, he doesn't go." It's clear that Oliveira's patience with Hooker has worn thin. The two have exchanged verbal jabs in the past, but the fight never materialized. Oliveira seems to believe that Hooker is more interested in keeping the feud alive through words rather than stepping into the cage to settle it. As for UFC Rio, the matchup with Fiziev might not have been the original plan, but it's still an explosive fight for the fans. Fiziev is known for his striking prowess and relentless pace, and Oliveira, with his elite submission game and ever-improving stand-up, is always dangerous. So while some fighters may have passed on the opportunity, Oliveira insists he's ready for anyone, anywhere, especially in front of his home crowd. And if his comments are any indication, there are still a few names in the lightweight division who might be on the receiving end of his callouts in the near future. From heated callouts to the possibility of a high-profile middleweight rematch, Paulo Costa has once again found himself making headlines. And this time, it's because one of the division's biggest names, former champion Israel Adesanya, has openly expressed interest in sharing the octagon with him again. Speaking in a recent interview, Adesanya was asked about the idea of facing Paulo for a second time. Without much hesitation, he responded, "I don't have to say much. I'd be like, cool. Alright, that sounds fun." The former champ explained that he has always believed in the idea of giving fighters a chance at redemption if they earn it, pointing out that he himself has been granted opportunities to avenge losses in the past. In his mind, a second meeting would be a fair way to see if Paulo could change the outcome, especially given how much has happened in both of their careers since that first fight. Fans will recall that their original matchup took place back in September 2020 at UFC 253. The fight was billed as a grudge match with plenty of trash talk and tension in the build-up. Adesanya ultimately retained his title that night in dominant fashion, finishing Costa in the second round with a flurry of strikes that left no doubt about who the better fighter was on that evening. It was a tough loss for Paulo and one that he has admitted was difficult to move past. Since then, both men have experienced highs and lows. Adesanya went on to defend his belt multiple times before eventually losing it to Alex Pereira, regaining it in a rematch, and then dropping it again to Sean Strickland in one of the sport's biggest upsets. Costa, on the other hand, has dealt with a string of setbacks from injuries and fight cancellations to some inconsistent performances inside the cage. But despite all that, the Brazilian remains one of the most dangerous strikers in the division, and his physicality and pressure style still make him a threat to anyone on the roster. When Adesanya's comments made the rounds online, Costa didn't hesitate to fire back with a short but clear response. During a Q&A session on Instagram, a fan asked if he would be interested in the rematch. Paulo's answer was as straightforward as it gets: "I'm in." He didn't need to elaborate. The message was loud and clear. He's ready, and he wants to fight. Of course, the UFC has yet to confirm anything. Matchmaking at the top of the middleweight division can be complicated, especially with title implications and other contenders in the mix. Fighters like Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland, and Khamzat Chimaev are all vying for big opportunities, so it remains to be seen where exactly a Costa vs Adesanya rematch would fit into the picture. Still, for fans, the idea is an exciting one. Their first meeting may have been one-sided, but MMA is a sport built on comebacks and unexpected turnarounds. If Paulo can make the right adjustments, both strategically and mentally, a second fight could look very different. And if it does get booked, you can bet the build-up will be just as fiery as the last time, with plenty of bad blood, bold predictions, and high stakes inside the cage. Meanwhile, Gilbert Burns has been weighing in on one of the most intriguing matchups on the horizon: Khamzat Chimaev vs Dricus du Plessis. Burns isn't just another analyst giving a casual opinion. This is a man who has been inside the octagon with Khamzat, felt that relentless pace, and endured the kind of pressure that most fighters can only prepare for in theory. Back in 2022, Burns faced Khamzat in a high-stakes welterweight showdown, ultimately losing via unanimous decision, but not without giving Boer one of the toughest tests of his career. That first-hand experience gives Burns a unique perspective on what makes Khamzat so dangerous and where his potential vulnerabilities might lie. Burns says the early storm is unlike anything else. "I do believe that's my thinking. I think Khamzat has that with everybody. In the beginning, boom, he rushes. I do believe he might take Dricus down, might control him a little bit, but I don't believe Dricus will get knocked out. I don't think he's going to get cut. I don't think he's going to get finished. I think he's going to fight through all that, get up, get strong." In Burns' mind, the key to this fight lies in what happens after that furious first round. Khamzat has shown in the past, most notably against Kamaru Usman and against Burns himself, that when a fight extends into the later rounds, his pace can drop, and that's where a battle-tested champion like Driscoll's can take over. Burns put it bluntly: "If Khamzat slows down the way he did against Kamaru, against me, against a couple of other fighters when the fight went late, I think it's a nightmare for him." Burns even painted a vivid metaphor for the kind of pressure Khamzat brings. "The guy comes like a freaking truck. The only way to stop the truck is to have a car crash with it. In other words, you can't run from the storm, you have to meet it head on." That means Dricus can't allow himself to be purely defensive in those opening exchanges. He has to push back, force Khamzat to work harder, and make every moment of that first round a taxing experience. And while Burns expects both men to be breathing heavy by the second round, he believes Dricus' experience in deep waters could be the deciding factor. The South African has gone 5 hard rounds multiple times, shown an ability to absorb punishment, and proven that he can recover and rally late in a fight. Burns sees that as a major advantage. "I think both guys are going to get exhausted in the second round. But with Dricus, with all his experience, all those 5-round fights, I think he'll recover, dig deep, and he hits so hard that I can see maybe a decision, but I do believe in a late finish. 3rd to 4th round." So while the early moments might be all Khamzat, Burns warns that if the fight becomes a battle of attrition, Dricus du Plessis could be the one standing tall in the championship rounds. Finally, we circle back to one of the week's most heated rivalries, the brewing war of words between Arman Tsarukyan and Paddy Pimblett. Over the past few days, these two have been firing verbal shots back and forth, each trying to claim they're more deserving of the next lightweight title opportunity. What started as competitive talk has quickly turned into something far more personal. Paddy, never one to shy away from controversy, recently took aim at Arman in a blunt interview. He admitted, "I understand that I am ranked 9 or something, so other people probably are more deserving, but Posh Boy definitely isn't. Little Rich Boy showing how desperate he is, offering him £1 million to fight him. Spoiled rich baby trying to pay his way out of things. That's why he quit when he was making weight in a bath like a little. He didn't even bother to finish the sentence before dismissing Arman entirely, adding, "Arman's irrelevant. No one cares about him." That jab about Arman quitting during weight cut week was a direct reference to the infamous moment when Tsarukyan withdrew from a high-stakes fight, something critics have never let him forget. Paddy's strategy here is clear: paint Arman as entitled, desperate, and undeserving, while positioning himself as the bigger draw despite his own ranking. But if Paddy thought Arman would stay quiet, he was mistaken. Tsarukyan fired back almost immediately on social media, addressing Paddy directly with no sugarcoating whatsoever. "You're a nobody, a trash can at most. Daddy Dana fed you a couple of senior citizens to build your hype. That's all you are, hype. I earned everything in my career. Nothing was handed to me, you bum. Now you sit your goofy down and wait until Daddy tells you what to do." The exchange sent MMA fans into a frenzy online. Clips of the interviews and responses spread across fight forums, Instagram and X, formerly Twitter, with fans debating who's in the right. Some argue that Paddy is simply playing the promotional game, using trash talk to secure a marquee fight. Others believe Arman's point is valid, that he's earned his position through a tougher path, while Paddy has been given favorable matchups. Regardless of who's winning the war of words, one thing is certain: rivalries like this have a way of forcing the UFC's hand. When the trash talk is this personal and when the fan interest is this high, matchmakers often see dollar signs. The lightweight title picture may still be unclear, but Arman and Paddy are making sure that when the next big fight is booked, their names are in the conversation. From billion-dollar business moves to moments of respect between champions, from bitter callouts to talk of potential rematches, the MMA world is buzzing. The sport continues to grow in ways few could have imagined, and if this week's headlines are any indication, the next chapter for the UFC could be absolutely massive.